Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Firefighters podcast, where we seek to develop, inspire, and motivate the world of the emergency services operator through a series of wide-ranging conversations. Now, before we go any further, just hit that rate, follow, or subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening to. It's a key performance indicator for us and helps us reach even more people. Now, here's what we've got for you today. Today on the podcast, we have a whole host of guests because this is a bit of a roundup episode from our trip to the Emergency Services Show on the 17th and 18th of September 2025, held in NEC Birmingham. The Emergency Services Show is where over 16,000 attendees from the police, fire and rescue, and other sectors get a chance to head over and meet up with their brothers and sisters, as well as manufacturers and many others. It's a fantastic networking event where they can meet over 500 plus industry-leading suppliers. And this year it's also co-located with the Emergency Services Tech Show. So this year it was myself and Carl Boseman who descended from the podcast. I did some great work on day one with IDEX, working with their brands Godiva, Veta, AWG and Lucas. That was a massive pleasure, really enjoyed that. Lydia and the team were very, very hospitable. And we just had some fantastic chats around some of the great tech, great equipment and great solutions they're bringing to the market. Then myself and Carl got out and about on the floor, having a chat with many old and new guests, different partners, and catching up with some friends. So we'll kick off today with a chat between myself and Carl. And as you roll through the episode, you will hear a number of different chats cropping up for what is hopefully a lovely buffet and representation of some of the incredible people that attended this year's Emergency Services Show. Thanks for coming back to the podcast. If you weren't at the Emergency Services Show this year, hopefully we'll see you there next year. So without further ado, I'll introduce all of our guests and I'll see you on the other side. So, brother, Emergency Services Show,
Here
2024. Is it surreal coming back now, a year, not out of the job, a year on from coming here in uniform for many, many years with a different strategic mindset, perhaps?
So yeah, it's I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing a few familiar faces, seeing things through different eyes, maybe.
Yeah.
The other side of the fence, so to speak. But yeah, it's great to be here, and I think it's going to be a great opportunity to meet some of our partners and meet some new friends of the podcast.
Because you've still got skin in the game, because you love the sector, and I think, you know, once you've been a firefighter, you never stop being a firefighter. But like you say, you've no massive weight of responsibility in feeling like, oh, I've got to come away with a solution for this, and these are my 5 key takeaways for the day, and this is what we're looking for, and all that sort of jazz. Now, you almost have the liberty of being able to look at things that really interest you personally, and like things for the podcast and like where we're going.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things, some of the conversations we've already had, you know, around on-call as an example, you know, hugely important, and the future of on-call. You know, I'm really looking forward to seeing how that shapes up over the next 5 or 10 years.
I hope that we had a conversation with a past guest a minute ago about the change to the Grey Book, which is certainly news to me, and you'd sort of had some indications of it and knowledge about it. But that's a really crazy thing. I look forward to having a conversation with them about that, because that was almost never going to be touched ever. And whoever's managed to get that across the line will be an interesting one. Yeah,
I think it was, you know, coming out of some of the negotiations around the pay last year, there was the government gave a commitment to looking at that. So I'm really pleased to see that. That
it's always needed to evolve, hasn't it?
I think so. I mean, it's a very old system, needs to evolve, doesn't necessarily reflect modern life. It doesn't reflect modern life at all. And I think one of the things I would love to see some of the solutions around how that will be managed, having had to manage it for many years. But it is a huge part of the UK Fire and Rescue Service. And as we speak now, there will be on-call firefighters across the country who are giving a huge commitment to protecting the communities.
Thousands and thousands. Yeah. And a lot of them are going to be retiring. Yeah. And like you were talking about your son and his interest in the sector. But if we're going to be able to offer the next generation something that is going to be useful, is going to slot into their life, they can take fulfillment from it, hopefully be financially rewarded appropriately for it, it's going to need to change. It's going to need to evolve.
It will. And I think, you know, that's just one of the things I'm looking forward to sort of seeing today. I'm always interested in tech. I like to see the new tech, the shiny things.
There's a lot of shiny things.
And I'm looking forward to having a look around there. I can see a BMW GS motorcycle as we stood here speaking, which I'm a keen biker, so that's going to be the first place I'm going to go.
You know what? I was on the fire bikes for a very short period of time when I first joined the organisation that I joined. And it is like a real niche, because back then, if you join them, you get your own set of leathers and all this sort of stuff. And it became a bit of an old boys club, but again, I think it's evolved. So we're here with IDEX as our main commitment. With day one, we're spending some time with IDEX. For people that don't know, they're working with Akron, AWG, Godiva, Lucas, Veta, some of the big brands that we'll be talking with for them today. Carl, you're going to be roaming the floor. There's so much to see and do. There's some great speakers on the cards. We're going to go away and make a bit of a list of people today.
But it'd be really interesting from your perspective as well to see who are we not talking to? Because when you first came on board with the podcast, I said to you, like, I'm still stuck in my own echo chamber. There's so much. We just spoke to somebody about Folk. I know very little about them. Massive company, thousands of firefighters and places that they protect and work with and all that sort of stuff. So it'd be great when you're looking at it today, because you'll have your own lens that you'll put on it from all the companies you've worked with, all the projects you've been part of, all the needs of the sector that, total transparency, I know very little about because I've not gone into the depths that you have.
Yeah, looking forward to that, and I think this is the benefit of being at the show. With one of our partners, is that we can get to see everything that the sector's got to offer. So looking forward to it. Looking forward to meeting a few new people, and let's see who we can meet today.
Absolutely, mate. And I think it'd be a good conversation point as well for our now and next. We've got our next one coming up in a couple of weeks that people will be listening to every couple of months. So we'll do a bit of a debrief on that. We might kick off that conversation with takeaways from the ESS, conversations for people to look forward to. But no, I'm really, really excited to have you here, mate. It's nice to be able to involve the team in more things like this because the diaries are so busy. You have lots of obligations in your personal life as well. So yeah, 2 days. Let's go for it.
Let's do it.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Gore-Tex Professional Fabrics. Now, we all know the working environment of a firefighter is filled with challenges. We face serious risks on the job, such as heat exhaustion, burns, physical and mental stress, and we frequently come into contact with high levels of toxic chemicals. Now, I have been wearing Gore-Tex for nearly 2 decades on the front line, working in hostile environments, tackling challenging incidents from firefighting to water incidents and in urban search and rescue environments. Gore-Tex have a well-earned reputation for protecting professionals in the fire and emergency services through their family of highly innovative, waterproof, breathable moisture barriers that exceeds global performance standards and are trusted worldwide. Gore-Tex, going further together. Next up is a chat with me and some friends from the Firefighter Challenge community, and you're going to hear a little bit about how that sector is growing, some of the recent champions, and some of the events that are going on this year and next year. Let's have a listen.
Alan Smith,
Where from?
And I'm from Hampshire.
Dominic Norcross, Midland West.
I'm Ryan Cook from Cheshire.
Mike Joseph, retired.
So boys, we're at the Emergency Services Show. We're on the British Firefighter stand. Why do we keep coming back here every year, Ryan?
Generally, mate, probably because of the ethos of everybody that's involved, the general atmosphere. And the way to explain it, mate, is just it's a supportive network.
Yeah.
It's a positive atmosphere with everybody. Everybody's encouraging and stuff like that. And when you explain like the challenges to people, a lot of people kind of look at it and go, is that not a little bit elitism? But
yeah,
it's hard to explain once you come down to the event and you see people competing and just see the effort and support that people show and demonstrate. It's unbelievable, mate, and it's just an all-round enthralled atmosphere.
I mean, Don, we've seen the Welsh go from strength to strength over the past few years. There's a lot happening in this sector now. A long time it was the British all by itself. The Welsh and the Cheshire have come in strong. What sort of stuff are we looking forward to over the next 18 months? Because there's loads of potential competitions cropping up.
Yeah, there's quite a few actually sort of popping up as South Coast.
Yep.
Gloucester said they're going to manage to get one going. Oxfordshire, Nottinghamshire. Is Cleveland?
Cleveland, yeah.
Cleveland are threatening. I never know much about what they're doing now.
Yeah.
Well, they're threatening and they're looking really good at it this moment in time.
Northampton, they're looking into it. So it's a sport that's growing and growing. Hopefully it'll be a good old season next year.
Alan, you've just come back from winning everything on the planet. Give us a quick whistle-stop tour of where you've just come back from, because it'd be good to give people some insight into some of the other competitions. I think you've just about done all the competitions that are out there now, and you've just come back from the Worlds.
Yeah, I've just been to the World Firefighter Games in Denmark, and for me, that was probably one of the best World Firefighter Games I've attended as well.
Is that just because you won everything?
No, and you can forget
because the competition were terrible and you beat them all.
But it's forgetting about the medals. For me, it's about meeting other firefighters.
Yeah.
I've made friends all over the world, and they're lifelong friends, and it's like picking up where you left off. So it's a great network. It really hammers home that we're a family. There's a firefighting family out there, and it's inclusive, and it's just a really well run and supported.
For people that have never met you, put you on the spot. How old are you?
I'm 63 now.
You're 63, and
Yeah.
what did you win this year?
Well, I was quite lucky down the athletics track. The fact is, I do a decathlon, so I've got 10 events in my bag anyway, and they don't do the decathlon there, so I do them as individuals. So I took.
You know when you
I
put it in
took
the
11
WhatsApp
goals.
group and it was like pole vault, I was like, mate, you're going to injure yourself doing the pole vault. And then he sends bloody photos of him doing it in the past,
Yeah.
bloody clearing some ridiculous heights.
But I walked away from the pole vault because
Right.
the pole vault was the one that was going to injure me.
Yeah.
And the TFA I did want to compete in.
Yeah.
So and rather than just walk down there, hop over the minimum height to claim a gold, that would have diminished everything else, because I did actually put effort and race the other events. And then I was just seeing at which point I broke, and luckily I didn't, and I got through the TFA, and that kept going every section, and I was really happy with how it went and how I got injury free, because I'm going to America for the Worlds, and that's my focus.
Some people will have seen the pictures with all the medals, but give us a highlight. Just how many and what were the colours? What did you get?
Well, I got 11 golds on the track, and I got a bronze on the TFA.
Jesus. Is the wall full yet? Have you had to do an extension just to extend the medal wall, or how's it going so
No,
far?
yeah, I'm going to put it in a little beam or something to hold up. Yeah,
I think that'd have been easy just to tell us what you hadn't won, mate.
Yeah,
You know,
there was one or two I didn't bother with because I wanted to have a bit of a lie-in. But Mickey, it's got to be really surreal, mate, to see like the growth of it, because you and John, and especially you, and we'll acknowledge Kev and stuff that aren't here today, we're sort of the wandering loners from the UK out there. What does it feel like now to see how many? I mean, even like 2 years ago, you were struggling to get 2 people to come and support this stand. Now, John was saying yesterday he had to spend like 120 quid on sandwiches just to feed all the people there. Was it like seeing the growth of the sport and all the athletes that are now going around the world doing it?
The nice thing is just seeing all of that, kind of like work and effort that we put in just come to fruition, really. The support from the Cheshire guys, from Alan, from everyone, really. It's really, really nice to see Dom, especially. You come to this event, it's nice because we speak to the sponsors, we thank the sponsors for their support, we try and, get some more sponsorship, some more support, and then, you have a look round, you pick up on ideas, and you just see what direction we can take it next, because that's the next thing is, we're here, we've got the British Firefighter Challenge, we've got regionals coming up, where do we go from now?
Yeah.
And how do we take it forward?
It's hard, and I'm going to put you on the spot, and I'll forgive you for forgetting and say, well, but let's acknowledge some of the partners and some of the sponsors that are currently involved. So we've got the obvious ones, we've got MSA. We've got Gore-Tex, we've got Hikes, and even from the Welsh and everywhere else. Who are we forgetting? Who have we got?
PhD.
Yep.
William Woods.
William Wood watches. Oh yeah,
big,
Johnny.
big
always
one.
speaking with Johnny. Always giving away the top prize. Love William Wood watches.
Cork Crane Hire. Big shout out to them, because without
Crofton
them,
Engineering. Tower and build itself.
I've actually got to give a shout out to Firefit Europe. And these lovely sleds that we've got now, which
beautiful
are just
new
so
4 centuries.
efficient, so much more cost effective.
They showed their face for the first time, the British, this year.
Yeah,
Everybody
they did.
seemed to go on well with them.
Yeah, they are. They're really, really good. What I like about them is they're consistent and they're fair.
Yeah.
Where we used to have, discrepancies depending on the weather and depending on who was maintaining.
Yeah.
You didn't need anyone there. Just
Yeah.
put the hammers down, push it back, reset, off you go again. So yeah, they were a real good investment this year. So
Who else do we need to acknowledge? We've obviously got Lifelines who come and supporting it. We've had Grenade in the past.
Yeah.
Who have we had? Hibernate. Yeah, Hibernate. All helping us all sleep and recover. I'm sure we're going to forget some.
No, Delta Fire. We've got to give a big shout out.
Yeah,
to
the branches for Delta Fire. We've got Ruth Lee. Dummies. Who else have we got?
Arkan. Is it Arkan? Arkan.
Yeah.
Arkan ropes.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I think that's about it, isn't it?
Oh, the Firefighters podcast.
Shit, yeah.
Guys,
Them fuckers seem to be everywhere. Can't get rid of them. Like a bad smell. Throwing microphones in people's faces every left, right, and centre.
coming round.
I appreciate that.
Giving context to what we're doing.
Yeah, it's important people understand it.
Good commentary between yourself and Kev.
Kev, yeah. Sarah came into the ropes this year as well. So, new competitions that are coming up. Alan, tell us a little bit about what you've been working on.
Well, we're using a very similar model to the Welsh for a regional. Looking, it'll be based down in Portsmouth next year, mid-June.
Mid-June.
And then so more details will be to follow. But yeah, it's going well. We've got things.
Is
in
there
place.
anything special or different than the Welsh? Because obviously with the Welsh, the unique thing is we've got the loading element of it. It's a faster, shorter course. What's the South Coast going to look like?
We're working on it.
Okay. I'd love to see a tyre in it. I'd love to see something heavy and brutal where the heavier, slower athletes like me can put in a bit of grunt work and stretch it out a bit. These short, fast courses don't suit.
Right.
But That's just a request.
We're bearing that in mind. No, it will. We've got to put things in place. A lot of it's on risk assessment.
If we can have a mathematical question halfway through that you have to answer as well, because I think that'll stump most of the knuckle-dragging firefighters, and we might be able to get through it. But no, it's awesome to see you boys here every year, mate. Really, really appreciate it, and let's have a great year next year.
Yeah, sounds good.
Cheers, lads. Cheers, mate. This episode is brought to you in partnership with MSA Safety. Today we have them to thank for the improved firefighter safety through connectivity in their brand new connected firefighter system. At the centre of the connected firefighter platform is the MSA M1 SCBA with telemetry. That integrates straight in with the Luna system, which is a wireless all-in-one device creating an independent search and rescue network, providing edge detection, enhanced personal thermal imaging, while simplifying post-scene reporting and data retention. All of this then plugs into the FireGrid system for cloud-based connectivity, real-time information, and data-driven decisions for the incident commander. MSA are truly taking massive strides in the future of improved firefighter safety through connectivity in the brand new MSA Connected Firefighter platform. Now back to the show.
Next up, we're back to Carl, and he was catching up with Stephen Nelson, Lifesaving Operations Room Manager and Lifeboat Crew Manager. Let's have a listen.
So, Steve, nice to meet you. RNLI. You are the Lifesaving Operations Room Manager for the RNLI, so please just tell us all about what that means.
So, I've been with the RNLI as a volunteer aspect for about 17 years, and based in a number of stations across the UK. My day job as the Ops Room Manager is very much provide support to the organisation. We can provide support to anybody that comes under the flag, whether they're a volunteer, whether they work for the organisation, they're operational or non-operational. The RNI has been going for 200 years or just over 200 years now, and for myself in the day job as the Ops Room Manager, the 5 years I've been here, there's been some significant changes, and a lot of it is culture change and behavioural mindset changing, but on a day-to-day basis we can support area operational managers out in the different regions that we have. We've got 238 stations across the UK, and within those stations we've got management who are all volunteers as well. We've got just short of 6,000 volunteers, operational, non-operational. That is from a water safety aspect, delivering the water safety messaging, so the float to live messaging, from the head launchers to manage the launch of the lifeboats and the different assets, to the helms, the coxswains, the trainers that we have here at the show. There's a number of experience and knowledge that we have. But the RNLI has gone through a lot of changes, and we're continuously to improve. I'm not going to say that it's absolutely perfect and we're squeaky clean. We're not, but we're continuously learning, and the benefit of the Emergency Services Show is being able to have the conversations with different organisations who are interestingly having the same challenges as us.
Absolutely, and as we were saying just before we started, a real key partner in terms of emergency service response across the UK, because many people might not know, of course you do, so the offshore, and you also do inshore as well, don't you?
Yep, so we've got 238 stations around the UK and Republic of Ireland, and in those stations they're strategically set for all-weather lifeboats and inshore lifeboats. Our all-weather lifeboats have a range of about 250 miles offshore, and we have the inshore lifeboats. The smaller versions, the class that we've got here is the D class. They can go out, I would say, a couple of miles offshore, but they can go inland, they can go into the rivers, they can go into some nooks and crannies of where our bigger lifeboats are unable to go. And if I'm honest with you, the inshore lifeboats are our workhorses of the fleet. They're the ones that are going in the surf zones, going in the rivers, going up the locks to help and assist the fire brigade or the police, the ambulance service, whatever it might be.
Yeah, and of course, flooding is it's a real issue across the UK. You get involved in national flood response as well. So again, if you go on any beach in around the UK, you will see the RNLI there. Again, entirely funded by donations from the public and registered charity.
So we are a charity, and every single piece of equipment or conversation you might have, or whether it's a life jacket or a helmet or a set of gloves or a dry suit, every single thing you see here and see on the television or on different social media places, everything is donated by members of the public. Yeah, and that's people going shopping to put the £5 or the £10 or the 20p in the buckets at the end of the till. It makes a huge difference and keeps us going. And
it all goes to keeping our beaches safe. What a fantastic job as well. So I'm going to put you on the spot now. How many calls a year do you do roughly, would you say, Steve?
Me personally or organisationally?
Any? Either's good.
Organisationally, between 9 and 10,000.
That's a lot of calls.
Me personally, at Poole Lifeboat Station, we're on average in maybe 140, 150 shouts a year.
Because of course you're operational as well.
That's correct.
So again, tell us all about that.
So I've been crew as a volunteer for over 17 years. And down in Poole specifically, our station, we're one of the busiest non-full-time stations in the organisation. And we can have, like I said, 140, 150 shouts a year. And our hot times are in the summer. Obviously more school holidays, more holiday makers down in the beaches. People get their boats out from the yards and get them out ready to switch their engine on, and they go afloat. They stay afloat, but they don't always work when they're going afloat for a number of reasons, or defects or lack of servicing. And one of the biggest things about the RNLI is we try and do ourselves out of the operational aspect. So we've got the water safety stand, and they're the prevention. What can we do to make things easier for the person out on their boat, or out swimming or kayaking or paddleboarding? So we're trying to do ourselves out of business, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah.
But thankfully, we're well involved with the business. Yeah.
And that's the thing across the emergency services, particularly in the fire and rescue service. Prevention has been better than cure for many, many years. And of course, you'd rather not respond to incidents. However, when you are called to respond, you need to be trained, equipped. And again, I guess that forms a huge part of what you do on a sort of daily basis, weekly basis. That's
correct. We are finding more and more that the RNLI are getting tasked and involved in more incidents with the fire brigade, the police and the ambulance service. There's very rarely we'll go to an incident now without having the support or providing the support to the blue light services. And the benefit of our training, it's got to be relevant, suitable and sufficient for the support or the communication with the fire service or the police. And it's really interesting that as an organisation we're looking towards the other blue light services to say, what do you do? Can we learn from you? Can we have that shared learning? Can we have shared systems, wherever it might be?
Yeah. Brilliant. And I think, that makes it all the better, at the end of the day. So, Stephen, it's been lovely to speak to you. Thanks for telling us about the great work. Continue the great work, and nice to speak to you.
Thank you very much.
All the best. Cheers.
The team here at the podcast are extremely excited to announce our brand new partnership with Patrol Store UK. Patrol Store have been serving the UK's police, fire and emergency communities and first responder sector since 2008, providing leading brands such as Hikes, Magnum, 511, Nebo, Op Zulu, Highlander, AKU and many, many more of our favourites. They are now also supplying bespoke uniform, PPE and station workwear to fire services around the UK. So for all our listeners that are part of your USAR, your HEART team, your ISAR team, your armed response teams, your fire investigation, your NALO, your hazmat and all of the training departments that have got your own budgets, be sure to get the absolute best for your team at a realistic price by contacting Aaron and the team at Patrol Store and referencing the Firefighters podcast. Patrol Store will also be taking part in our listener competition giveaways, as well as providing unique discounts to podcast listeners. So for people that are always asking about Hikes boots as an example, that is one unique discount code that is coming to you very soon through Patrol Store. We've also got some incredible bags. I mean, the Op Zulu bags are a game changer. So the really Gucci and expensive tactical black bags that everyone's using in CrossFit workouts and taking to the gym and taking to stations? Well, they've basically got that, but it's made better and costs less, because they're not slapping some Gucci expensive brand name on it and it's giving you what you want on a first responder salary. Be sure to keep your eyes in the notes of the episodes for links to unique offers and discount codes. And if you're looking to buy well and buy once, be sure to get in the notes and head over to Patrol Store UK. Now back to the show. Next I caught up with Russ Timpson. Russ runs the High Rise Conference, and that is expanding dramatically. They've got 4 big locations where it's happening over the next 12 months. And Russ takes us through a little bit of the background, a little bit around why this knowledge, information and awareness really needs to be pushed to the forefront of our minds, as there is a quite literal tidal wave of high-rise and tall buildings which are going to be built over the next 10 to 15 years. So let's get in there with Russ.
So Russ, it's awesome to see you, brother, here at the Emergency Services Show. Always nice to catch up. We've got some more dates planned in over the next coming year. Really looking forward to coming to the High Rise Conference this year. Talk to people a little bit around the High Rise Conference that you put together, why you felt the drive to do that, and how you feel it adds that education, insight and knowledge from a lot of the global stuff that you're involved with, and really helps people understand why we need to connect these dots from the building to the manufacturing to the operational.
Well, Pete, thanks so much for engaging with me and the event, and really, really great to talk to you and the listeners. I suppose to answer your question, In my career, it's always been very interesting going to other countries. I was lucky enough to work for a multinational, and just going to different countries around the world and just seeing how they did things differently. And as a UK firefighter, I think we were in a position back in my day where we were perceived, seen, believed that we were at the cutting edge, the best.
Yeah.
And for me, it's been a journey where actually, that is in some cases not correct.
Very much not the case, unfortunately, and we've seen the cost of that in not even just people think Grenfell, but there was a million examples before that, and we've spoken before about Peter Apps's book and the work that you've been involved with, and a lot of the debriefs and incidents that you brought to our knowledge when you came on last time.
And I've been obviously investing huge amounts of time and energy in understanding tall buildings, and the reality is we're going to build a lot more tall buildings. We've built more tall buildings since 9/11 than there were before 9/11, which is an interesting statistic.
Okay.
And you've got cities now, like Sao Paulo, 32 million people, Lagos, 29 million people. This is in a city. This is a forest of tall buildings.
Yeah.
So every stakeholder in that, including firefighters, we've got to up our game.
Yeah.
Because future generations, those buildings are going to be built in novel ways with novel materials, and fire engineering, they're going to be very, very complex buildings. So
it's not inherently that these things are unsafe, it's just the manner in which we're doing them at the minute. So I'm sure it's the same when combustion engines first came out and people were like, what, you're going to have a million small explosions inside my car whilst I'm driving along? Now we're scared of electric vehicles and lithium ion. People fear change, but it's the fact that we just need to switch on because the industry and the building of these things seems to be moving at a much greater pace than our glacial innovation in the fire and rescue service as one example.
Yeah, I attended an event recently, which was obviously we're still absorbing and digesting the phase 2 of the Grenfell Tower report. And there were lots of the current officials there talking about the plans for the Building Safety Act, etc., etc. And it just occurred to me, I thought, you're running after a train that's heading away from you at speed.
And it's going faster than you are.
We've got to have some disruptive thinking, really, to try and tackle that. Because if you then factor in things like BIM and the use of BIM going forward and what that's going to mean for buildings.
For people that don't know what that is, just expand, sorry.
Building information modelling or management, building information management. So if you want to build a jet fighter or a submarine, you build it in a BIM environment. So you take CAD and then you put that into a thing called a digital twin. So if you think of some of the tall buildings in London at the moment, they will have a virtual digital twin building.
Yeah.
And if you want to run the lift until it breaks, you'll do that in the BIM model.
Yeah.
So it opens up whole huge...
If you want to start a fire on the 17th floor, you do so.
So you can imagine now, if I've got... Sorry, I'm going to use lots of acronyms here, but if I've got the building management system and I have a fire on the 17th floor, the BIM model, I can run that fire in the BIM model and tell you how far it's going to grow and how fast it's going to grow. So I suppose that's a small snapshot in the
Do you think we're doing that retrospectively to buildings that are already in place? And there must be some scary scenarios being ran through simulations.
Well, I just think that there has to be a forum where we can allow people from around the world, colleagues, to come together and say, look, we're doing this bit of research, here's a piece of innovation, here's a problem we found, and this is how we've solved it. And try and break these sort of parochial barriers of saying we do it best in the UK, therefore if it ain't invented here, we're not going to invest in it. And that's really the mission. And I think if we can get in an audience, if we can get an architect sitting next to a fire engineer, sitting next to a building manager, sitting next to an insurer, sitting next to an equipment manufacturer, that is, for me, that's the kind of...
Yeah, there's enough people there to call bullshit on each other with the greatest of respect. When someone goes, oh, well, because my colleague's in the building, and they'll go, no, we ain't doing that. I'm sorry, I've got to correct you there. That's not what we do. That's not the brief you gave me. I asked you to build it like this, and you just said something I've told you I don't agree with.
Yeah.
And that's not that we're trying to create a combative environment, but it's to identify the holes in the handovers, isn't it? Well, I think, if this happens, I'm handing over to you there, and you go, well, we're not there. That's going to hit the floor.
Yeah, no, and it's great when we have these things, and it's happened really, there'll be a firefighter stand up and say, well, we want this when we get there. And there'll be an FM manager, facilities management person, building manager, and they'll say, well, we can't do that because... And they'll give them 3 reasons why they can't do it.
Yeah.
We're not going to send our security staff back into the building, or whatever else it may be. Right. Well, that's just pulled the rug out from under our assumptions, our planning assumptions. Well, great. That's what we want to do. Because
100%.
Otherwise, we're ending up in a situation where people are pitching up or managing buildings, and I'm speaking as an ex-firefighter here, who are the people that carry the bucket and spade to pick up the crap at the end of all this?
Yeah, it all rolls downhill, and at the bottom we're there, and they're going, why did you let it burn to the ground? Why did 17 people die?
And above all, you know, the insurance industry. I'm a great believer in the insurance industry. Really will drive change, because if you're a bad risk, if you don't know your building,
they're the one paying the bill when it goes wrong.
Exactly right. And so they're saying, as an industry, you know, unless you can show us, prove to us, demonstrate to us, we're going to load your premium. And so this is money. It's not you might go to court or, you know, those other reasons that we all traditionally.
Fine. I will just bleed you dry. Do the thing that qualified person has told you to do over and over again, is written into legislation or is on the standard. You're not doing it. So I will insure you, and it will make your eyes water.
Yeah. So a great example is I'm a fire engineer, so I can sign the external wall cladding risk assessments, and lots of people, you know, government officials, etc., say, well, this is now acceptable. And it's quite interesting when you talk to insurers, they say, well, we don't think that's acceptable.
Yeah.
You can produce guidelines and you can produce all the kind of, but at the end of the day, we're going to insure it. And if you've got an ounce of combustible material on that building, we're not going to insure it.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting dichotomy between those two, where the insurers
there's quite a chasm that needs to be crossed. Yeah.
And I've got lots of clients who are saying, well, you know, can you do the report? I said, yeah, but if you want the best insurance outcome, you're probably going to have to go beyond what the guidance says.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So talk us through the events that we've got coming up, because you've got 4 different events.
Yes. So we've been running conferences since 2011. We're now on to the 8th iteration of the International Tall Buildings Fire Safety Conference, which takes place in December alongside FireX. This is a pay-to-attend event, 3 days of world-class speakers talking on a variety of subjects. We have got a serving firefighter discounted rate, which is a fraction of the overall.
Where's this being held?
It's at the Excel in London.
Okay.
So as I say, 3 days worth of speakers on a whole variety of subjects, which goes from smoke control solutions, green walls, command and control theory. We've got firefighters from Abu Dhabi, Belgium, Germany, talking about their procedures for high-rise events, electric cars. We've got Canary Wharf, who've just done a major subsurface EV car fire training drill, and they're going to be feeding back on that at it. So there's some real gems in there. Go on our website, www.tallbuildingfiresafety.com, and you can see the program. And it'd be great to get as many firefighters there. We've already got, as I say, a number of firefighters from around the UK coming to the event in Ireland. So it'd be great to see more firefighters in the audience interacting with the other stakeholders. Next year, 25, we're going to be back at FDIC in Indianapolis in April.
Yep.
We'll be running our annual event in the UK, and we are very, very likely now to be running an event in Australia as well. So, so we're trying to get to a position where we can be the platform for high-rise fire safety stakeholders to interact with each other and learn from each other. And that's the vision. Combined with that, we do our training courses, which is a 5-day training course in tall building fire safety management, and that's proving to be very popular now. So we're doing that in London in November and December. We're out in the Mediterranean in March. We're running our first course in Cyprus.
Wow.
And we're running a course in Toronto in Canada in April as well. So I suppose the picture I'm trying to paint, Pete, here is there's going to be more tall buildings.
Yep.
They're going to be more complex. And the management of those buildings and understanding of those buildings has got to be much better amongst the key stakeholders. And the best way we can do that is for them to interact with each other.
It's a global challenge, and we're bringing global speakers, global knowledge to share that awareness and guidance. And first event, I'm going to be there, December. If people want to register for that, we've already mentioned the website. We'll put it in the links below this. And I really appreciate your time, brother.
Great, and it's great that obviously the podcast, your great podcast, is now our partner podcast.
Yes,
for the event,
sir, and it's an absolute privilege to do so. I really appreciate it.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, my friend.
Cheers.
The Firefighters podcast was created to recognize, acknowledge, inspire, and hopefully even motivate these incredible individuals who have chosen to be part of the first responder community. Our driving purpose is to create a legacy resource for the current and future generations of firefighters and first responders. We get some incredible feedback from listeners and guests, and as the podcast grows, our desire to create longevity and sustainability means that we are asking for the support of our listeners. If you want to support the podcast, if you want to get discounts to our merchandise, hoodies, clothing, coins, patches, tallies, tallies, and also access to all of the incredible documents get shared with us from our podcast guests and sector leaders, then please head over to our Patreon page, and for just £3 a month, you can support the future of the podcast. Please finally hit that follow, subscribe, or rate button on the platform you're listening, and wherever you're in the world, please support your emergency services responders, and thank you for listening.